The basement letter. I'm Margaret Chun, 72 years old, and I've lived in this house for 43 years.
My husband Robert and I raised 3 children here. We planted the magnolia tree in the front yard. We painted every room twice. We built our life here, brick by brick, memory by memory. Robert was a plumber.
A good man, everyone said. He had kind eyes and steady hands.
He fixed things, pipes, faucets, water heaters. He fixed everything except what was broken between us. That
Tuesday started like any other. Robert left early for a repair job.
I made my tea and sat by the window, watching the morning light filter through the magnolia leaves. The house felt too quiet, the way it often did since the children moved away. Around noon, the phone rang. It was Robert. Small leak at the Morrison place, he said. Might take a while. Don't wait up for lunch. I said okay. I always said okay, but something made me uneasy that day.
A feeling I couldn't name.
Maybe it was the way his voice sounded, too casual, too rehearsed. Or maybe it was intuition, that quiet voice we learn to ignore until we can't anymore. I decided to bring him lunch.
I made his favorite sandwich, roast beef with horseradish, and drove to the Morrison house on Elderberry Lane. When I arrived, Robert's truck was parked outside.
I knocked. No answer. I tried the door unlocked. I stepped inside. Robert? I called out. Silence.
Then I heard water running somewhere below.
The basement. I walked down the wooden stairs, each step creaking under my weight. At the bottom, I saw him kneeling by a pipe. His toolbox open beside him, but he wasn't alone. Catherine Morrison stood beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder. She was 20 years younger than me, with smooth skin and bright eyes. They
were laughing about something, their voices low and intimate. Then Robert looked up and saw me. His face changed.
The color drained away like water down a pipe.
His mouth opened, but no words came out.
For 3 long seconds, we just stared at each other. Then he whispered, his voice barely audible, "Pack your things and leave immediately.
Don't tell
your kids." The words hit me like a physical blow, not an explanation, not an apology,
just an order to disappear from my own life. Catherine stepped back, her face flushed. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I stood there in that basement, holding a sandwich wrapped in wax paper, and felt my entire world crack open. I didn't cry.
I didn't scream. I looked at the basement, the concrete floor, the exposed pipes, the single bulb hanging from the ceiling. I looked at this man I'd slept beside for 40 years, this stranger telling me to pack and go. Then I turned around.
I climbed those stairs.
I got in my car, and I grabbed my things. But I didn't leave the way he wanted for 3 days.
I stayed with my sister, Patricia, to towns over. I told her everything.
She held my hand and let me cry. Really cry. For the first time since I was a girl. "What will you do?" she asked.
"I don't know yet," I said.
"But I won't disappear quietly." I thought about revenge.
In movies, betrayed wives do dramatic things. They burn clothes, drain bank accounts, make public scenes. But I'm not a movie character. I'm a woman who's lived long enough to know that the best revenge isn't dramatic.
It's strategic. I called my children, all 3 of them.
I told them the truth, every word of it.
They were shocked, angry, heartbroken.
They wanted to confront their father immediately, but I asked them to wait. "Let me handle this my way," I said. Then I called a lawyer. Her name was Diane Foster, and she came highly recommended. She sat across from me in her office, her grey hair pulled back, her eyes sharp and understanding. "Tell me everything," she said. I did.
When I finished, she nodded slowly. "Margaret, I'm going to be very clear with you. You have rights. After 43 years of marriage, you're entitled to half of everything: the house, his pension, his savings, his business assets."
"He can't just ask you to pack up and vanish." "I don't want to destroy him," I said quietly.
"But I won't let him erase me either."
"Then we'll do this right," Diane said. 2 weeks later, Robert came home to find me sitting in the living room. He froze in the doorway, shocked. "What are you doing here?"
he asked. "I live here," I said calmly. "This is my home." "I thought we agreed you ordered," I interrupted. "You didn't ask. You didn't explain. You just told me to disappear." He set down his toolbox, his shoulders sagging. For a moment, he looked older than his 69 years. "Margaret, I don't know what to say." "Then say nothing," I replied. "My lawyer will be in touch."
His face went pale again.
"Your lawyer?"
"Did you think I'd just vanish? Did you think 43 years of marriage meant nothing?"
"It's not like that."
"Then what is it like, Robert? Explain it to me." He opened his mouth,
closed it again. He looked like a man drowning in shallow water. I was lonely, he finally said.
You were always busy with your committees, your friends, your projects.
We stopped talking. We stopped. Everything. I felt anger rise. In my chest, hot and fierce.
So instead of talking to me, your wife, you talked to Catherine Morrison in her basement?
It wasn't supposed to happen, he whispered. But it did, I said.
And now we deal with the consequences. The divorce took 8 months.
It wasn't pleasant.
Robert tried to argue that he deserved more because he'd been the primary earner.
Diane demolished that argument with evidence of my 43 years of domestic work, childcare, and household management. In the end, I got the house, half his pension, and a first settlement.
Robert moved into an apartment across town.
Catherine Morrison sold her house and moved away quietly.
The neighborhood whispered about it for months, then moved on to other scandals. My children rallied around me.
My daughter, Emily, visited every weekend.
My sons, Thomas and James, called regularly. They were angry with their father, but I encouraged them to maintain a relationship with him if they wanted.
Bitterness serves no one, but here's what
surprised me most. I discovered who I was without Robert. For decades, I'd been a wife, a mother, a helper.
I'd organized my life around other people's needs. Now suddenly, I had only myself to consider. I joined a book club.
I started painting something I'd loved as a young woman, but abandoned when the children came.
I traveled to places Robert never wanted to go. Santa Fe, Charleston, the coast of Maine. I made new friends.
I had coffee with women who'd also been through divorces, through losses, through reinventions.
We shared our stories without shame, and slowly, over months and then years, I realized something profound. Robert's betrayal had set me free, not free from pain that took time to heal,
but free from a marriage that had become a cage I didn't
even realize I was in.
Free to discover that I was more than someone's wife, more than someone's mother. I was Margaret.
Just Margaret. And that was enough. 3 years later, I ran into Robert at the grocery store. We stood in the produce section, awkward and uncertain. How are you? He asked. I'm well, I said honestly.
I'm painting now. I'm traveling. He nodded, looking tired.
I heard. Emily told me. There was a long pause.
Then he said, very quietly, I'm sorry, Margaret. I handled everything wrong. I looked at this man who'd shared my life for so long. I saw regret in his eyes, genuine and deep, but I also saw a stranger. Thank you for saying that, I said.
I hope you're finding peace too. We parted. Then, going our separate ways down different aisles, that night, I sat in my living room now, and thought about forgiveness.
I'd learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing. It means releasing the weight you've been carrying so you can walk lighter. I forgave Robert.
Not for him, but for me, and in that forgiveness, I found something unexpected. Gratitude, not for the betrayal, but for the ending it forced.
For the new beginning it gave me. Life is strange that way.
Sometimes what breaks us also makes us whole. I am 75 now. The magnolia tree in my front yard is still blooming every spring.
I've repainted the house in colors I love, soft blues and warm creams. I've filled it with my paintings, my books, my life. My children visit often.
My grandchildren play in the yard where their parents once played. I've created a life that feels entirely mine. Sometimes people ask if I'm lonely.
I tell them the truth. Solitude isn't the same as loneliness. I've learned to enjoy my own company. I've learned that independence, even when it comes late, is a gift. That moment in the basement, Robert froze in, his face white, whispering those terrible words used to haunt me.
Now it feels like a distant dream. Something that happened to a different person, because in many ways, I am a different person. I'm the woman who survived betrayal and discovered strength, who chose dignity over drama, who learned that endings, however painful, can lead to beautiful new beginnings. My advice to anyone facing heartbreak: don't let someone else's choices define your worth. Don't vanish quietly just because someone tells you to. And don't be afraid to start over.
Even when it feels impossibly hard, you are more resilient than you know,
more capable than you imagine,
more deserving of joy than you believe. I am living proof of that. And every morning, when I sit by my window with my tea, watching the light filter through those magnolia leaves, I feel something I never expected to feel again. Peace. Pure, earned, beautiful peace.